So I'll just go ahead and start with our first edition, online edition on Men Excel. Thanks for everyone for tuning in. You are all welcome. Thanks for coming. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to our first series of Men Excel. Men Excel, I am your host for today, Sharing Darcy. We are having an online community conversation for men with men about men on the concept of Men Excel. Men Excel is an awareness movement to sensitize men and stamp out the stigma where over the years, men have been put in a mental prison by narratives given to them what it means to be a man. Men are not allowed the diversity to show their emotion and express themselves. Men are supposed to be financially secured, emotionally strong, physically and mentally strong. From childhood, men are conditioned to hide their emotion and figure it out on their own. Terms like be a man, boys don't cry are often used from young age to build the boy within the man. A man that asks for help is seen as a weak man. A man that shows vulnerability is not man enough. Our men has been forced to adopt over the years to be a man, which in some cases led to the Me Too movement, where women come out with their own untold story of abuses from men. So now living in a modern world where emotions are openly displayed, some men find themselves struggling to free themselves from this belief and culture that dominance and being angry is a right emotion for a man to show. However, faced with the imminent criticism from fellow men and society, ego and pride takes over. Some men find themselves at the crossroad where modernity and tradition meets. So the question is, as human beings, we all should ask ourselves, what is more fundamental to our collective well-being than the quality of relationship between male and female? At Male Excel, it is time for a change. It is time for us to bring our men in and look at the whole situation that is causing. There is no equality if we don't bring our men into this whole empowerment awareness. So today I'll welcome our first guest into our program today. He is Mr. Agbortabi Armstrong, a DPS from the healthcare service in USA, and a pastor. So I'll welcome our first guest today, who is bold enough to come and talk about his experience, his own untold story of being a man, what he has gone through, and is bold enough to come today and talk about his experience. So my first guest of today is Miss Pastor Agbortabi Armstrong.
Hello, everybody.
Hello,
God bless
welcome, Mr.
Thank you. Thank you.
Agbortabi. You are welcome to our first edition of Men Excel. I would like you to introduce yourself so that the public will know more about you.
Okay. You said it all. My name is Armstrong Agbortabi. I'm a pastor. I also work in the health services. I'm a DSP, that is direct support professional. We help people with disability, uh, bringing them back to society and making them to feel at home, to feel welcome. Anyway, I am very pleased to be a guest at Men Excel. I talked with the host sometimes last week when she approached me, and I said nowadays men need to be encouraged. A lot of men, they die in silence. A lot of men cannot express themselves. Not that they cannot but society has made them to think that they have to swallow everything that comes their way. And if you look at the statistics of suicide, it has the men has exceeded the 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 women or the other gender in suicide. So much so that some have even uh, taken their lives and the entire family because of stress, because of simple things that if someone was there to talk it out with them, they could have uh, sustained themselves and sustained life. I uh, I like to always use myself as an example uh, of what I went through in life. Not that a particular person threw it at me. It was a long life journey. Having spent 7 years in detention, immigration detention, and when I was about to be released, I didn't know how what was out there for me. Uh, Usually, when you spend that kind of time in detention or in prison, they do what is called work release program. They release you gradually. You go out for work and then you come back like the last year so that they try to integrate you back in society. But in my case, it wasn't like that. I was just the door. They just opened the door and they say go out. So
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't know what I was going to face out there, and the relationship I got myself involved, relationship with friends, relationship with society was all a challenge. And
I
I
can
don't know how I went through it, but I went through it.
I
And
can
so
really.
when the host came with this idea, I said I
Mhm.
will jump on it because there might be somebody out there suffering the same fate who just need to hear a word of encouragement. And
Encouragement. Yeah.
that's why I'm here
Thanks
today.
so much for that. I was so grateful also that you came up because I've been looking for men that are courage enough to come out and talk on this program because we have to educate our men also. Just like the last week, there's this story of a 6-year-old girl that was
Mm.
raped and by 4 men, and in the process, she died. That got me wondering because growing up, we are always being taught by, especially we the women, when you are being raped, they tell you that it's your fault. You're supposed to dress this way. You're not supposed to go out and so time. You have to be careful. Then we look at a case where a 6 years old child is being raped. In such a situation, I asked myself, as a mother of a boy child, what went wrong?
Okay.
What is a possible way to probably eradicate rape in our society?
On that, I heard about that too. And even yesterday, I heard that another rape took place in a church in, I don't know, I think that was in Nigeria. That rape took place in a church, and it was a girl who was preparing for her exam, and she thought that going to read in the church was safe for her, and they went and raped her and killed her also. So these are things that they happen in society. I once heard somebody say those are things that are always going to happen no matter how people try. Now, you just ask a question, how can it be eradicated? First and foremost, governments need to be pressurized. You know, there are incentives, but governments do not have incentives. I'm talking about the underprivileged world, underprivileged countries or third world countries. They don't have incentives for such things. In the developed world, we see that they have incentives for such things. We see that there are groups that they advocate for such things. So they have to be uh, a way of pressurizing the government to come up with incentives for such things. And also the we have to listen to the voice of some victims. You know, some victims are being blamed. That's why you see these things always repeat itself. They blame the victim, and then there is something like we have to speak out against the root cause. We also have to listen to survivors.
Yeah.
Survivors. We have to listen to those who have survived. And then it is not something that should be laughed at. They laugh over it. Some people, and so because they laugh over it and they take it lightly, the victims are afraid to come forward. The victims are afraid to come forward. Sometimes even if it is a person of a position who committed it, the parents even will say, sit quiet. The parents, we have to encourage parents to speak up for their children. If a child comes and complains that there is advances or this person in position is making an advance, we have to take it serious. Parents sometimes they will say, oh, if I take it up, that man is in high position, they will not even believe me. They have to speak up. They have to speak up, and we have to even they have to do what is called self-defense training. I see all these things here in this part of the world. Then we have to learn how to break the silence. There have to be a voice for the survivors. There have to be a voice for the victims, and we should not play bystanders. We should be active bystanders. All these things have to come in place. These are the things that, because it's always, men have been taught that it comes from male chauvinism, you see, and then it happens because some men have low self-esteem, you see, and it boils back to men not being encouraged how they are supposed to be encouraged, and some men don't want to be. They can't take rejection. They can't take rejection. It is but normal that if you approach somebody like a man approaching a woman, it can work out and it cannot work out. It doesn't have to be that a man, because you have a position, if you approach a woman, it must or she must go out with you. It doesn't have to be that. So men have to be taught that rejection is also part of the game.
What could be the possible reason for such distorted behavior? What will really cause a man? Okay, what will really cause a man to look at a woman and all he thinks is to rape her? Not to talk of a child. A child is a pedophilia way of men thinking differently. But we have cases of mature women being raped. What could really cause because that is behavior disorder. Do you really think that there is a way to help boys and men to work out this distorted behavior? Do you think
they have to talk about it. They have to teach the men also. You see, there are classes that women will attend, men will not attend. And we have to also accept it that there are some sick people out there. There are sick men out there. There are men in suits who are sick. There are men in positions who are sick. So it's a thing that it has to be addressed. Men have to be encouraged to go to these classes, to listen to it. The fact that you are not, you might have a friend or a family member who is that way. So there have to be education, educational intervention. And then to society, it depends on what society the person is coming from. For instance, I don't want to call tribe or name. Growing up back home, there is a certain tribe that are fond of doing that. You have such a tribe in Nigeria, you have it in Cameroon. So it's a thing about society and culture where the person is coming from. So cultural intervention, cultural education. Some part of the country they've not told them about it. They have to tell them. They have to explain it to. They have to educate them. You see, there was a tribe back home from Nigeria that they came to Cameroon during the war, during the Nigerian Civil War, the Biafra War. This tribe is from the Cross River State. When they came to Cameroon, they were looking for jobs like house help, and there was a lot of complaint about the men. But it was something that was kind of normal where they came from. And so a lot of them found themselves in prison in Cameroon. And these are very clean people. But that was a problem with them. They call them the Ibiobios. You see, but it was something that they grew up with it. So when they came over to Cameroon and they started imprisoning them, but they taught them that this is bad. This is not the way to go about it. And that particular tribe, they are fond of getting married to younger women.
Wow, thanks for education. That is what Epanti just said. Education and orientation is needed. And that is why we have Men Excel. This program is really to go back to the root cause, because whatever we as women and we are empowering our girls, it can never, we are just treating the symptoms. We are not treating the root cause. Why is this rape? Why does rape take place? So Men Excel is here to get to the real cause, to educate and orientate our boys. So my next question would be, just like you said, do you think from the background, the way we bring up our kids, that can influence their behavior, the way they behave in future? Because the boy of today is the man of tomorrow. So if we don't educate them now from the root, educating our boys well enough to really value woman from the onset as a boy, to become the man of tomorrow, the father, the husband, the brother, the uncle, the cousin, do you really think this has an impact on why this rape issue is still going on, be it in Africa or in the Western world?
As I said earlier, granted, there are some sick people out there. There are some people who have a disease, inward disease, a sickness. Granted, all notwithstanding, the way you bring up a child, I don't want to go to the Bible. This is not a religious forum, but I am forced to give a reference.
Yes,
the Word of God says, train up a child in the way he or she should go. When they are old, they will not depart from it. You understand? So if you train a child, I tell my sons that from early age, you give respect to women. You know, there are some male fraternities that all they teach you is machoism. No, you teach your son that, listen, you came from a woman. How will you want people to treat your sister or your mother out there? Those things stick and remain in them. Likewise, you train a daughter. Like right now, I told my daughter, she sits on my lap. That's my daughter. But I told her, I said, you don't sit on any uncle's lap.
Yes, that is also good.
You understand? From early age, she will not question you why. But when she's already doing it and you come and tell her, she'll begin to ask you why. But when she's still young, you instill it in her, it's a no-no. So she's not even giving the other person an opportunity to even think it. So as well as you speak to the little boy, you speak to the little girl. You see, early education on these things, they matter. And where does this early education start? From home. You know, from home. Schools, I mean, we are in the Western world. The things that our schools teach our children is not what you as a mother would like, or you as a father would like. Imagine a 15-year-old girl. That's your pretty little daughter. She's coming back from school. They've taught her how to use, is it contraceptive? Your son is coming back. He's 14. School is giving him condom. And they tell that's sex education. But if you already talk to them while at home, you understand? When they come back with those things, even by then, when they show them these things in school, even it's not going to be, because you have already trained them at home. You've told the boy who is 4, 5 to give respect. You respect the woman. You see, it starts all from home, even before we send them to school. So, before a boy would develop that in his mind that he can get any woman that he wants, sometimes we say things that we think we are playing, we think we are encouraging our son that, oh, his handsome. No, you tell him to respect a woman. You teach them from home, as well as you teach your daughter to from home, not departing from it. no matter how society pressurizes them. Because at the end, we all blame it on society, peer pressure, pressure on friends. That child of yours can make the difference. That child of yours can make the difference in society. Can make peer pressure will not have a hold on them if we can, but only start training them from home.
That is just what also Jackie, thanks for tuning in. She just said, much as there are people out there sick and numb to any form of moral education, implementing good morals doctrines early enough is paramount in the way the male child sees, treat, and respect a female in future. That is really true. And that is why we have Men Excel to really educate the boy that is becoming the man of tomorrow, because we have to go to the root cause and fighting this problem in the society where men are being taught that when you show that you are angry, when a man shows vulnerability, meaning he's not man enough. When a man's ask for help or show weakness or cry, they say you are a weak man. And where the society tells a boy from small, that crying is not a boy thing, showing emotion is not a boy thing. And the emotion they allow a boy child to show is the emotion of being angry, annoyed. You are dominant, you are a man, you have to show. So how does this affect the man in the future? Do you think this plays a role in a way a man will behave in the future? As a man, as a husband, as a boyfriend, as an uncle, or things like that? Does it really play an important role, this upbringing from boys?
Absolutely. Okay, take for instance that all what a man knows growing up is to take it in, be a man, be a man, be a man. What does be a man mean? Growing up, we know be a man is if you are feeling pain, you don't say it. Okay, that man has grown that way. Now he's faced with the problems of society, the problems of the world, the cares of the world. You know what he thinks? He thinks of ending it all. What would they say about me? What would my friends say? What would my father, who always told me to be a man, what is he going to say? I'm stuck here. There was a case in Chicago where a person who was so close with the father told him never stoop low, never do this, never do this. And he was successful school-wise and had a good job. He was a banker. But he could not take it. He could not sit and have dialogue with the wife. Whereas dialogue could have diffused everything. So the wife never even knew who he was. Because the wife was looking at the 6 figure that he made. He thought, when I do this, I provide a home, everything, that was okay. So when he was faced with a situation that society brought on him, he had to end it. He had to take his life. And now in taking his life, it did not end there. Before he did that, he killed his children and his wife. Why? And he left a note. He left the note. When they saw the note, he was explaining things that the dad had brought him up this way. And so there was no other avenue. He said, Dad, I failed you. And before he said, no, I don't want to fail you. That was the note that he left. I don't want to fail my dad. And so he killed his wife, killed his children, and then took his own life over something that needed but dialogue.
That is so true, what you just said. And same thing Letty's Ojon Dison just said. Some of them went through the same ordeal and didn't receive any form of healing or therapy. And now they have become a product of which was done to them. So, which means some men don't want to even hear about therapy. If a man has been damaged from small, what do you really think would be a possible situation? Like just like what you said, the man knows only a one way of solving the problem because the father did not tell him that you can dialogue. maybe he was brought up in the sense that you provide everything for your family and that is it. When it came to where to really solve problems, he did not know. In such a situation, what will you advise a man that has already gone through this boy upbringing to a man in this stage of where he thinks as a man, you are a man, there's nothing, every other thing should be under him, and then he's confronted with a situation where he cannot really handle? What will you advise a man in this stage to do?
That is where we have to speak out. We have to dialogue with our friends. We have all sort of friends. You talking to me, you have friends from all walks of life, I believe. I have friends from all walks of life. As a man of God, as a pastor, I have heard things that, things that will make if a normal person should hear.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard things which are out of this world, but I talked it out with the person or persons, and things came back to normal. You will be shocked to know what a simple dialogue, the outcome. You'll be shocked to know the outcome of a simple dialogue. People do not dialogue. Husband and wives do not dialogue. You see, I know of a case where a man was a counselor, a marriage counselor, but his own home was falling apart. But he was counseling couples, making 6 figures, counseling couples. This was in the Hollywood, but his own home was falling apart. Why? Because they never dialogue, he and his wife. Mm-hmm. Dialogue. It's just like they get up in the morning, he's going, she's going. They don't call to say, how was your day? Simple dialogue. So the men who grew up to be male chauvinism ought to we have friends. You see, what is killing us men is we are dying with it inside. What will they think about me? What will they think about us? You understand? So begin by having somebody you confide in. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you have a pastor friend. Maybe you have a doctor friend. There are health issues. You have a doctor's friend. You have a lawyer friend. First of all, they are bound by. They take an undertaking when they're coming out. They're professionals. So apart from them being professional, they're your friend. So you talk. Men do not talk. That's the problem. Men know only how to talk over a bottle, and that should not be it. You understand? A lot of men, they know how to talk only over a bottle or a glass of drink. It should not be. That should not be the limit.
Just like a panty, thanks a panty for tuning in. Our society is patriarchal. Teaching our children equality can bring change. That is just what a panty said. And then we have colleague Koti here. I think this is one of the reasons men are violent. I think she's talking of the upbringing of because they are boiling inside. I can't express themselves. They explode. And I think that is really true. We all need dialogue. So this just made me, I used to ask myself, what is the biggest threat to an African man in Africa and in the diaspora in today's way of living? What really threatens them? Because we've already talked of how the culture and the society affects a man's way of behaving. So what do you really think will be a biggest threat to an African man in today's world, be it in Africa or in the diaspora?
Number one, their spouse. Their spouse is their other half. You understand? Because not only the men, this mentality that the man should swallow it, you understand, that the man should be a man. And then where we find, I'm talking now in regards to the Western world, the threat to a man is his spouse. is his spouse, then that's the number one threat. It's either in a positive way or a negative way. It goes both ways. Now, when I've seen a case where a man sponsors the wife, you understand? Sponsors the wife comes out, he attends the graduation, she lands a job. If the wife says something, he is on the defense, on the self-defense. Oh, is it because you went to school? You sent her to school. You understand? But the man now, I don't know if it's complex, begins to attack. Then the same case where the woman also begins to talk low on the man. That's what I say. The greatest threat is the spouse. And it can only get to that level because of dialogue. Now, if my wife has a friend out there that makes an impact in her life more than me, there is a problem. You understand? If my wife has a friend, my wife has a lot of friends. Now, if she has a friend that when that friend says so, that's what stands, then there is a problem. Before you know it, that friend will be controlling the house. So your best friend, I'm talking to the men, is your wife. To the wife also, your best friend is your husband. It starts from there. Your best friend before anything is your spouse. But when when your best friend is not your spouse, this is to the man and to the woman, there is an issue. There is definitely going to come an issue. So the man's greatest threat is the wife, either positively or negatively. That's my opinion. That's how I look at it.
Cynthia just said it's a good thing to communicate your issues to a friend, but the African society do not understand how important it is to strengthen one another, especially when you are someone's confidant. What do you read? I'm just trying to understand what she's trying to say. What will you say about such?
Can you please repeat that? Read that again.
It is a good thing to communicate your issues to a friend, but the African society do not understand how important it is to strengthen one another, especially when you are someone's confidant.
Okay, it's coming back to the same thing that I am saying. It is a good thing to have a friend. It's a good thing to share, but your best friend, your immediate confidant, I'm talking to it can be your boyfriend, your fiance, your husband, your significant other. We're not stopping you from not having good friends. I have friends out there, a lot of friends, a lot. I have acquaintances too, a lot. I know who is who. I know what I can say to you. I know when I say something out there which was confidential, when it comes out, I know who has said it. I don't even need to go ask the person. I know my friends that way. So, like from what she's saying, it's true. The African society thinks that when I tell you something, a secret, or something considered to be a secret, you are holding my life. They think that I've given you the key of my life to control me.
That is really good. But do you think that the question I would really like what is the biggest anxiety about being a man? That will prompt, because if you really look at it, some men are really afraid to speak out because they are afraid of being criticized by their fellow men. There are situations where a man would rather stay out late because he's afraid to say, I want to go home to my wife. Before they label him that he's a weak man, it is the wife that is controlling the house. What really prompts a man to be in that level of stunted emotion, afraid to express himself, afraid that the friends, whoever, or the society should not look at him as a weak man? What really is behind such behavior? Because I will call it disordered a behavior. I don't want to say distorted behavior, because that is not really normal. Showing love to your family as a man should be paramount to any man. But the society has made it in such a way that they are conformed into a kind of emotional retardation that a man should not express himself. What can you really tell us? What is really behind such behavior?
That is when the friends out there have control over such man than he has control in his house. You understand? That is when friends out there or somebody begins to give value to outside world than his family. Because if you have your family, your wife and children, and you love them, no friend, I don't care how weak you are, no friend will be able to say something that will make you to stay with them. It's how you see, it's the regards that you have for your family will determine the hold that the friends out there have over you. It's as simple as that. When you see things like that, and they happen a lot, it is because such a person gives regard to the outside world than their family. It's going to always be, those things are always going to be, because there is a man who thinks that when he is outside, he's pleasing the friends.
But do you really think such behavior, what would prompt a man to behave like that? What would make a man to please the society?
Listen, low self-esteem. I have a lot of them. Low self-esteem.
What will make a man to have low self-esteem? What will make a man to be insecure?
Listen, it comes from control.
And that brings me again. What will make a man to feel that I have to control everything around me?
Upbringing, the society that he or she comes from, the society that he comes from. But you see, these things are changing, because at the end of the day, the people even who made those laws back home or wherever, go check them. It is not so in the house. You understand? The people who made it that way, it is not so in the house. They go home, they are loving to their family, but they are the ones who are setting these rules, this guideline. I know of a case, I'll take it now. Let me give you a sponsor. I know of a case where there was a man who thought that the wife was not being submissive. And so this is a Christian family. So he thought that the wife was not being submissive enough. So he was about to go report the wife to their pastor. This is in Africa. And you know how they regard pastors in Africa. Pentecostal pastors, they have control over homes. This man is going to go report his wife to their pastor. When he got there, he met their pastor. Their pastor that they so much love, they so much respect, peeling a goosey for the wife. And so when he entered the compound, the pastor said, sit down, have a seat, bring him something to drink. They brought him, and he was still there peeling the egusi, the pastor. And so the pastor said, what did you come to do today? He said, I think my problem is solved. The pastor said, what is it? He never even told me. He said, I was coming to report my wife that she's not being submissive. Then I met you peeling egusi. You understand? So I met you showing love to your wife. He himself answered the question. You see, society will make you think that you are in control. But they always say this thing, that the man is the head of the house. In my house, I'm the head, but my wife is the neck. Now, if there is no neck, will there be a head? Where will the head stand? You understand? I'm the head of the house, granted, but my wife is the neck of the house, because the head needs a neck to stand on. If you look at life that way, like I'll come back again, that it is peer pressure from friends, and that peer pressure from friends can only make a man to become controlling if the man does not have love for his family.
That is really good. That is why at Men Excel, I think it is time for a change. It is time to create an environment where our men can have conversation about what it takes to really be a man, the good and not so good, ask for help. Men need to ask for help because it is only through this removing this old gender stigma that leave men really emotionally stunted. That is why men access is one of the real awareness movement you will get now, if I cannot say in the diaspora and even in Cameroon. That is why we have Men Excel. And that will bring me then to ask you this really important question for me. What is the best advice you give or you've ever received from a fellow man?
The best advice I had ever received surprisingly came from a man who I want to say is my mentor. He's in New Jersey. All throughout my life, the best advice never came from my dad. May his soul rest in peace. He came from a man that was just like a mentor to me. He's a mentor. He was instrumental in my spiritual life while I was in detention. He was a teacher who came in every now and then. So when I was leaving detention, he told me, he said, I want to tell you something. I know you're going to be a pastor out there, because he groomed me while I was in detention. And he told me, he said, three things, I'm talking as a man, three things will destroy a man as well as a pastor. But I want you to look at it, because you don't have a church now. I want you to look at these three things from a man point of view. He said, pride. You see, most of the problems that men have gotten comes from pride. Because physically, I'm stronger than my wife. Mouth is something that God gave the woman over us. You understand? Now, your wife can be talking, ranting, and you have the choice to just walk away for her to realize herself, or for you to give her what we call dirty slap. You understand? Men have been talked to, insulted in a way that they say, let me just quiet her. Not that they wanted to, but just one slap. And they ended in jail, and it affected their career. You understand? From one action. So the best advice, growing up, I'm telling you, growing up from Cameroon, I had a lot of girlfriends. And I thought that a way of showing my love is to put hands on women. You understand? But this man told me something. He said, pride. And that has helped me in the ministry. Pride. And then the desire for things. I'm talking about myself. You asked me a question, what's the best advice I've received? The desire for things. He said, these things will come after you. And men always think that they must have this. They must have this to show society that they are the men. So the best advice I've received is humility. Humility does not mean weakness. Meekness is not weakness. So the best advice, somebody taught me that I should lay pride on the side. Pride has made people to die in silence. Pride will make you not to ask for help when you really need it. Pride will make you, a potential helper, a potential destiny helper can pass your way, and pride makes you. So the best advice I received is to be humble, to shun pride.
And what would be the best, what advice will you give a young man or young men of today? What will you advise them?
The respect for your elder. The respect for your elder. If a young man has respect, doesn't matter if the elder is not educated, you are educated than him. If he is your elder, you give respect to earn respect. I'm talking, my sons, I've told them, no matter what, because they will remember you of your respect. We talked in biblically, we talked about Joseph, not because he pushed Potiphar away from him. We talk about Joseph because of his integrity. So the advice I'll give the young man, and I always do that, is no matter who they are, give respect to your elder. Now, when you're giving respect to your elder, before you know it, you'll be giving respect to your juniors also.
So Jackie just said something here. Financial dependence on their women. Some men work hard and be the provider or meaningful supporter of the home to avoid using excessive force because you feel threatened by your own supportive wife. I don't know if you understand the statement or the comment she's trying to talk about now. I don't know, financial dependence on their wife, on their women. Some men work hard and be the provider or meaningful supporter of the home to avoid using excessive force because you feel threatened by your supportive wife. I don't really know what Jackie is trying to say here. I don't know if you understand what she's trying to say. Do you make something out of that? Maybe Jackie, you can help us formulate your question again.
No, I can make something out of it. Okay. I had something that I can use and make something out of it. A supportive wife, or a hardworking husband, and a supportive wife, and a wife who makes more. Okay, let me use myself as an example. My wife makes money more than me. Okay, my wife makes money more than me.
Yeah.
Now, does that make me the lesser person in the house? No. Now, some men cannot take it. Some men, the instances where men have become aggressive. Oh, because you're making it becomes a topic in the house. Granted, some women too have thrown it at their husband's face. All this comes from lack of dialogue. You understand? It comes from lack of dialogue. And when external forces begin to control your house, begin to determine how you live, you understand? And then now the weaker force, the weaker person, if it's the husband, he will, before he knows it, he will yield to the advice out there. Oh, what does she think he is? Show her that you are the man. And the same people who advise you that way, when it has become bad, they will run away. They will say, I never told you to go do this. You understand? And likewise, the women too. I've seen a case where they've pressurized a woman and she terminated her marriage. And the same women who pushed her out of the house began to insult her. Am I the one who say you should break up with your husband? You understand? So, like from what Jackie might be saying, there's cases where the woman is making more money and the man becomes aggressive. You understand? But it is a plus for me. My wife is making more money. I'm the one parading my wife out there. But you know, be ready that society is going to say, oh, it's because she's making more money. You understand? Oh, your wife is taking care of you. So who do you want to take care of me? My girlfriend? You understand?
So this brings us to meaning that I just want to understand what makes a man to really feel inferior. Cynthia Fru just said something. Only ignorant men in total darkness will allow an outside influence advice. I think the gospel on women and submission have been mistaught for many generations, such that Christians do not understand its real meaning. Submission is respect and not slavery. I think what Cynthia is saying, what is your opinion on this? What Cynthia is saying now, she just made a comment on that. What do you really think? Is she right on what she's saying?
She's absolutely right. And that's the problem. That's the problem with today's churches, not only churches, because today's churches are the ones corrupting the world. Whereas before it was the world corrupting the church. You understand? Today's churches have made man-made, that they've placed man-made doctrines. and they're slowly walking away from the doctrine set by God. So what
Yeah.
she's saying, uh, in I think Ephesians chapter 5, it talks how the women should be submissive to their own husbands as to the Lord. But before that, it says, husband, love your wife even as Christ loved the church. What is that? That the husband should have what we call sacrificial love. The husband should have that love that I'm ready to die for my wife. You understand? Christ loved the church and died for it. Women should be submissive to their own husband as if they are submissive to the Lord. Now, if I want my wife to be submissive, what do I have to do? I show her love. Don't tell me there's no woman out there that the husband is loving her who will not be submissive unless she is a witch. And there is no husband out there of which the wife is submissive, of which he will not love her except he is a witch. So it's a two-way stream. So what she's saying is the truth.
That is really, and then Seth Shushu Ninon just said something, because a lot of women want to be in control. They prefer their husband to stay at home and mind the children, because they know if the man is not financially capable, they can control him. Is that really, what do you say about such a comment?
Well, she's partially, or let me just say she. That comment is partially right and partially wrong. Partially right, it depends on the agreement of the husband and the wife. You understand? I've seen a case where the husband stayed home, the wife went to school. You understand? Taking care. When the wife finished, the husband too went to school. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, it is kind of risky. It all depends on those couple again, because in the course of them going through that transition, there are outside forces, external forces. That's the trying time of their life. Yeah. Or vice versa, the man is going to school and the wife is home, or the wife is working for the man to go to school. I've seen cases where the man finishes and then walks away from the wife. But I mean, I counseled the woman like that, and I told her, I said, just wait and see if he is right, you will see the end of it. You understand? There are cases too where the woman went to school, the man was working, and at the end, the woman walked away. So those things are things, it all depends on the couple. Society will always talk. I want to tell you something. Right now that we are having this program, you have me as a guest. There is somebody out there who is not happy about it. He doesn't like it. She doesn't like it. You see, people have their opinion. Are you going to be dwelling on that? No. You're not going to be dwelling on that. There are people who are going to call you after. Why did you call Betty? Didn't you see this person to call? Trust me. You understand?
Just like Ira just said, thanks for that. That was really important. But Ira just said something. I think women sometimes complain a lot without seeking to know how to maintain peace at home. A true woman should not fight her husband. Most men just need quality food, sex, and peace at home. Once they have those things, they let their woman to run the home. Winning a man's heart should be every woman's objective, and this battle should be fought diplomatically and over time. What do you think about that comment?
Well,
thank you, Ari, for tuning in.
No, she's just giving remedies. You understand?
It's a man, and this program is all about men. I'm even surprised I'm having more of the women in here than the men.
Okay, he's giving remedy. Ari, you know, when you say Ari, we women, I'm a banging man, we answer, the women answer Ari, men answer. You understand? So we all answer those. So, like what he's saying is true. You understand? There are some men who give attention to food. I've seen a place where a man goes to marry. The first quality that he wants to know is if the woman knows how to cook. You understand? Because this man is thinking about his friends who are going to come, the family. He comes from a family where they cook well. So he wants a wife who knows how to cook. I've seen another place where a man is looking for a wife who knows how to cater for the children, who knows how to handle the house. And he says, I will provide help, house help to do the cooking. I just want my wife to, to take control the house, make sure that everything is in place. So it all comes back to our priorities. So what Mr. Harris said,
Yes, true. Thanks so much. Prudential Fund just asked a question. What about those who take respect and the man being humble for a weakness? Meaning that what about people that look a man that is humble and respectful to the wife as a weakness? That is a question. What about those people?
Well, is some sort of excuse me to say, it's some sort of darkness. You have people who need to be enlightened. Now, is that going to make me say the man should one time come out of character? No. Keep being humble. You understand? It's like, let me go a little bit out. A woman came to me and asked me, say, my husband doesn't like me. I like as I'm going to church and things like that. And I asked her, what is the nature of the church? Is it interfering with you showing your husband concern, love, or attention? She said no. I said, just keep praying. Oh, my husband does not pray like I pray. I said, when God called you, did he call your husband with you? She said no. I said, so you keep praying. And I showed her a verse, I showed her a section. They say, just be a Sarah. How was Sarah? Sarah called her husband, she called Abraham my Lord. Did that diminish Sarah? No. She chose to do it that way. So I told this particular woman, I said, just keep doing what you're doing. If you are doing it right, and if your intention is right, he will come along. And he obviously came along.
Thanks. That is really good. Are again, Joachim Are said, men must come out of
Joachim.
their, yes,
Joachim Are. Oh,
yes.
that's my brother. That's my brother.
I just went and called by. So this time I insist on calling the Joachim Are so that you really know. Men must come out of their inferiority complex to live in peace with their wives. Marriage does not imply that a woman must not earn more. Earning more is a matter of skills and not a matter of marriage.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Are.
Thank you. That's my brother. That's my own friend. Him. Because I cannot see the audience.
A party asks again, true, and it leads to domestic violence against men. So you see now, we've come back to men. Thanks a panty. Men do suffer domestic violence. And if you go out there on research, that is why we have Men Excel. There are men also that suffers domestic violence. But since the society have a pressure on them how to be a man, they will never come out to say, I've been abused by a woman. What will you really say about that? For those men that are suffering from domestic violence?
A lot of men are suffering from domestic violence than we can even imagine. A lot. And we thank God for forums like this. We thank God for Men Excel. You understand? That's what I would say is that I would like to encourage a lot of men. After this today, I'll tell most of my friends to go view it. And you understand? Because there are some men who they suffer a lot. They take away I'm saying the suicidal rate. Men have exceeded all the suicidal rate. Men from 25 to 50. Why? Because they're suffering a lot. Abuse. Thank God that this issue is being addressed now. Because men have suffered for a very long time oppression, and sad to say, it's from the women. From the women.
That is really true. That is a case where during our Men Excel, we're doing a research, which also brought me into this, because Men Excel is really for equality. We cannot go anywhere without the men. The society cannot move. We'll be fighting a battle because we are only going to cure the symptoms, not the root cause, just like we said at the beginning of this program. And that is why we have Men Excel. So talking about the violence here, you will be surprised that after my own research, men are being raped also. I'm not talking of the sick men that go for kids, but research showed that men also suffer rape from aunties, uncles, babysitters, and things like that. What will you say about such situation? What should a boy child do in such a situation if he has been raped by somebody from the family or the society or from any man nearby? What advice will you give to such a boy child?
The same advice that I give to a girl child: speak out, speak up. You understand? The same advice you tell it. I mean, if somebody approaches you, speak out, speak up. It has occurred to the men or the younger men. They sat quiet. Imagine if a madam can approach a driver or a cook, you understand, and threatens them that you're going to lose your job, and then they sit quiet. You have to speak up. We have to listen to their voice. Again, we'll come back to the voice of the survivors. Those who survived, how we came to know about it, those who survived, they spoke about it. You know, they have to speak up, speak out. And that we thank God too for men excel. Because you'll be talking about such things, you'll be educating men about such things.
Yeah.
And that's why you came to form this organization running. I mean, it's for men on the most part, and for women also, because a woman may come and listen and hear how men are being mistreated. Well, perhaps she too was thinking that direction, and she'll get herself straight.
So Jackie just said, no, Pastor, your case is just an example. Some men are not even appreciative of their wife's huge financial input and tend to be unnecessarily controlling and aggressive as a means of subduing their wives. So, meaning this one still bring us to why should a man behave like that? So we are still going into the root cause of why should a man try to subdue the wife that is bringing a huge support to the family.
Low self-esteem. If a man, yes, I said, yes, my case might be different, like Jackie said, but it takes one to bring a change.
Yeah.
You understand? It takes one to bring a change. Maybe I am somebody that somebody was looking up to, and then they hear this, you get me, and they say, oh, is it like that? My wife makes more money than me, and I'm happy to say it. That doesn't take anything. It doesn't change our position. She's not the man, I'm the man. She's the woman. We have instances where a woman is a minister, and the husband, we don't even know the husband, but she's answering the name of the husband. You understand? So does that make the man less? No. Am I going to divorce my wife because she makes money? No. I'm going to parade her out there. You understand? You need one case or few cases to bring the change.
And
it starts from somewhere.
Bring the change to the society, because only with change can we grow together. So in this case, you are still saying that there is a problem, deep down rooted problem with men showing such insecurity. This brings us that back to, because we will not say this this insecurity starts as a man, meaning it started somewhere. It comes from the upbringing, which means we have to change our way of bringing up our boys, instilling them in such a way that they don't feel insecure or threatened by a woman. That is why we have Men Excel in this case, to teach equality. Just like a panty said, we must teach equality, because without equality, we will go nowhere. The women will be fighting a cause that will not end.
You know, before they used to say, behind every great man, there is a woman, right? That changed. Today they say, beside every great man, there is a woman. That's the equality we're talking about. You understand? Today, because I don't want my woman to be behind me, I want them to see her. I want people to see her. This is my wife. But if she's behind me, maybe I'm covering her, they will not see her. So that's
Just,
saying behind every great man there's a woman. We changed it. Society has evolved. Beside every great
very,
man there's a woman.
very, yeah, very important points there. Maureen said men are the bosses in all homes, but technically, the women control their homes, for it is women who control their homes. It is how a woman manages this technicality that determine the peace that reigns in the home. What do you think? I'm playing the devil advocate now. Yeah. Is that
Okay, see, let me just give you a picture here. The house, the arrangement of the house inside. Who arranges it? The wife. I want this chair to be here. You understand? I want this to be here. I want this. Oh, this window blind. This is the blind. This color will go for this. You understand? And then the man is there to provide what? Security. You understand me? You enter a house beautifully built, beautifully arranged. Let me use the slang that we use back home. What's that, Oga? You understand? So, like what Maureen said, the house, the arrangement is the woman. But if a man wants to go and be doing all those things, there becomes a problem.
so? Let me just take some few comments here, and then we'll come to the end of this program. We've already used more than 1 hour. Francis, just my dear brother Armstrong. Okay, you're having comments here. You are very humble. In fact, you can't buy humility in the market. Keep it up, bro. We just have more than enough compliment. And it's surprising that we have more women in the house than men. Please, women, bring in your brother, bring in your son, bring in your father, bring in your uncle, your husband, your boyfriends, because this program is for all, basically for all. But we are trying to get to the root cause. Why are men behaving the way they are behaving? We have come to realize that the society has determined a lot in a man's life that makes him to behave. That's the way he's behaving. That makes him to be insecure. That makes him to be arrogant, because the society say a man should be angry. Angry is the accepted behavior for a man. Violence is the accepted behavior for a man. It's just like a case where it happened when you were at secondary school day, where you were passing in the corridor and a boy just came and made your bra like that, pop, and he hit you and you were shouting. And then you turn and ask that, why should you behave like that? And then we went and reported that case to a teacher, and the teacher said, that is his own way to show you that he loves you. How can you be showing a woman that you love a woman with hurts? And it's real, true. That was his own way to show it, but he was showing it the wrong way, because that is how he has been taught to show love. So we really have to get to the root cause of this. And there are men that will really say, don't show a woman that you love a woman. Because if you show a woman that you love a woman, she will take that for granted. Can you just expatiate on that and let me really understand the logic as a man, a logic behind this?
If you know how many girlfriends, how many women are lost because I never approached them. You understand? Back home, I mean, growing up now, how many girlfriends that that because I never went and spoke. Because society taught me that, no, you are the man. They have to come to you. You understand? And so I lost. Okay, but that was just for, that was just for fun. This is the truth. Men are suffering because of pressure from society.
Yes.
We have to change that mentality. Men are not speaking out because of pressure from society. Men are not speaking up. You understand? Men are suffering a lot. And so, some women, let me talk now with reference to the diaspora. Some women have taken advantage or advantages over these loopholes to suffer the men. You understand? To suffer the men. I mean, we're talking about women with children with the man. They think they are doing it, but to the man, they are also suffering the children. Men are suffering. So I thank Men Excel. Please, let us encourage the brother. Let us encourage the men. Let us tell them that their voices could be heard. You understand? Because, like you said it, there's a man out there who has been raped, but he's saying that if I should say out, they will say, "Who? You with all this muscle? How do they rape you?" You understand?
Yes.
Whereas he did not like the approach, he did not like what took place, but he can't speak out. So let this forum, Men Excel, let it help the men. Let the women who are here today help the men. Not only their own husbands or boyfriends, they have brothers.
Yes.
You understand? Help them. By so doing, you'll be helping a family. You'll be building up the morale of somebody. There are a lot of men. Forget about the faces we put, the clothes we wear. There are a lot of men suffering. So they need this. They need this encouragement. They need to know that they love them. You understand? They need to know that they love them. And there are a lot of men out there with great potential that the sufferings have suppressed it, of which if you could just encourage them, it will bring out their potential. There are men out there who are hardworking. There's somebody who can be, has the potential of being a good mechanic, but is afraid that the wife or the girlfriend is going to say, "You smell like engine oil." You understand? Yeah. We have to encourage them. You have to encourage them. And that's what I do. But unfortunately, I do it as a pastor. And not that many men want to hear the word of God. The few women who come to hear it, they don't take the message back to them. They take the part that is favoring them. I'm talking about the women. They don't take the good message back to the man. But I thank God that I'll be doing it in my own small way. But let Men Excel and the women who are here, listen, sit them down, talk to them. Sometimes, how was your day? How is your day going? Will change a situation. So they are suffering because they cannot talk. They are suffering because they feel that when they talk, they will say, "You too. Where is all that? Where's all that strength? Where's, So they need to be encouraged. They need to listen. They need to hear encouraging words. They need to hear that their voices are heard. They need to hear that they care about their problems too.
So I will really thank you so much for coming to this program. I'm so grateful for you to encourage. This also encouraged me to go ahead with this program, because it's not really easy to see men that have been conditioned from childhood. What it means to be a man is to hide your emotions, don't talk, don't come out to the society, show arrogance and things like that. So it was not easy to find somebody to be my first guest on this program. I'm really, really grateful that, and I appreciate that. I appreciate your support. I would like to call all the men to get up and be real and be comfortable to come up with your own story, the untold story of every man that made you to be in that confined box where men has been put into a box to define what it should be a man. Only when you come out from that confined box, then you will be able to really have this healthy, respectful manhood, not only for yourself, but for the society and your daughters, the female around. That is why Men Excel is here for us. So thanks so much for tuning in. And then I will just give your last word to all the men and the women watching now.
Thank you. My last word will be in a prayer form. As a man of God, as a pastor with a calling upon my life, I cannot come on an audience like this and then I leave without praying. That will make me incomplete and I will have to answer to God. So I don't know who are the audience. I can't see it. I can only see you. But I thank God for everybody that is here today. And whether you are a Christian or not, I am going to pray that God, the Creator, should visit you. Father God Almighty, I thank you for this moment. I thank you, Father, for this forum. I thank you for the host. Thank you, Father, for putting it in her heart to invite me here today. Father, we have discussed some issues. It has gone well to some and it has not gone well to others. We've touched some pertinent issues. We've touched some sensitive issues. Father, but all glory belongs to you. I pray, oh Lord, that anyone who is going through something of its kind, Father, that you may show yourself to them. Father, I'm just but a vessel. I might not be perfect in this forum, but Lord, I know somebody has heard something that is useful to them. Father, I pray for this host and I pray for this program. I pray, Father, for the listeners, the viewers. I pray for each and every one of them, Father, that you will show yourself and that your mercy will locate each and every one of them. Father, open the doors that has been shut on their faces. I pray, oh Lord, for the men. I pray for the men who are suffering out there in silence. I pray, oh Lord, that your voice will speak for them. I pray, Father, that you will raise women like Cheryl to stand and speak on behalf of the men. I pray, Father, that for the men who've seen the light, they will help the others. Father, show them that it is okay for a man to cry. Jesus cried at the grave of Lazarus. David cried. Joseph cried. Father, it is okay for us to cry. Lord, I thank you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. God bless you. Thank
Amen.
you.
Thank you so much. So I will
Okay.
just put you behind and then let me run up. Thanks so much for tuning in. And I hope to have you again on this program. And I'm
Okay.
sure some of our women out there, brothers, husband, fathers, uncle, they must have learned something from this program. Thanks for the prayers, which I'm sure the Lord is going to give me the power to continue this program, because I believe only with equality is the society going, this our society is going to be balanced. Thanks so much for tuning
Thank you.
in. So I will
Okay.
just put you backstage and then I
Okay.
ran off. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Thanks, viewer. Thanks for your patience. I'm so grateful that you all took your time to tune into this program. It's almost 1 hour, 30 minutes, and all of you are there watching me. I hope next time when you come in, you bring your partners with, bring your brother, bring your son. This is something for our men. And it's not only for our men, it's for all of us, because without them, there is no equality. Without our men, we are going nowhere. We are only fighting a battle that will never end. Only when we go to the root cause of what is causing the imbalance in the society, what is causing a man to think that violence is the only way out, what is causing a man to think that I have to be in control, I have to have the power to control everything around me, what is causing a man to say I am a man, I am not supposed to show feelings that I'm afraid? Why should a man not ask for help? Men Excel is here for our men. With our men, let's talk about our men. Thanks for tuning in. I hope to see you next time, next Friday, same time, 6 p.m. And don't forget to come with your husband, your boyfriend, your sons, your uncle, even auntie, everybody. Just come around and let's learn and educate ourselves together. Thanks for tuning in. Bye. See you in my next edition. Bye.